So first I'll go through the what are the topics which we are going to discuss through this course. So these are the topics. So this course is designed in a such a way that anybody from any stream, any background can do this. And this course will be about duration 32 to 35 days. And this course is designed in a such a way that anybody from any stream can do this course. As well as this course is kept in a mind, designed in a such a way that if any person is having any gap up to 2 to 3 years, you can easily cover that. So once you are done with this course, you will be eligible to work like a system administrator. In that particular which administrator? A Linux system administrator. Okay. So you might be aware, most of the people in the world prefer to use Windows as their OS. But most of the servers in most of the companies, they are running on Linux. So as the administrator, we need to manage our network. So to manage our network, our servers, most of the servers are on Linux, means we should be aware about the Linux platform. So this course is based on the Linux operating system. So once you are done this course, you will be eligible to work like a Linux system administrator, so that you can manage your servers as well as your network on which your Linux operating system is being used. So this course is designed in a are divided into two parts: standalone administration and network administration. So standalone means normally on a machine you are sitting and controlling your network, and in the network administration, by using our system, we can configure the servers which will provide the services to our employees or to our users. So first, as the administrator, how we can control our network, that will be discussed in the standalone administration. And in the network administration topic, we'll be discussing as an administrator, based on our company requirement, we need to configure the servers. So what are the servers we will be configuring? That will be discussed in the, which will be there in all the organizations, all the companies. So that will be discussed in the network administration. So in the standalone topic, first the 3 days we'll be discussing about introduction of Linux. What is Linux? Who designed it? What are the different flavors in Linux? What are its features? And the basic commands. In basic commands, we'll be discussing about 3 to 4 days for basic commands only, and how to install the OS. In the basic commands, like most of the people come to this course without knowing much about the Linux. So we'll be concentrating about 3 to 4 days on basic commands, like how to create the files using cat, touch, editor, then how we can copy the files and directories, how we can rename the files and directory, how we can create the file in our location, in other location. That is called technically absolute path and relative path. So we'll be discussing what is relative path, what is absolute path. Then we will be also discussing the type of files, like soft link and hard link, how to create for the files and directories soft link and hard link. What is the difference between soft link and hard link? Once we know how to create the file, we should know how to delete. So all those things will be covered in 3 to 4 days sessions of the basic command. Okay, so first we'll be discussing the introduction of Linux, then how to install it, after that basic commands. Then whenever we install the Linux OS, so once we switch on the machine, it will take some time to get the login screen. So in the background, what process takes place? Booting process. Booting means loading of the OS. In every interview, these questions will be asked related with the booting process. So you complete one day, we'll be discussing about the booting process, how the OS will be loaded in Linux, what is this process, how it will load the OS. So those things will be discussed in the booting process. In Linux, when OS is getting loaded, and once we get the login screen, so we can in Linux we have different run level, like starting with run level 0. Each run level 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Each run level have a specific work. So in run level 0, what happens? Run level 1, what happens? Like this, all run levels we'll discuss, and which is the default run level. After that, we'll be discussing. I'm just giving you the overview about what are the topics we are going to cover. through this Linux course. Then after that, we'll be discussing how we can create the user account and how we can manage the users based on our requirement, how we can change where the user's detail will be stored, how we can modify the user database file. So those things will be discussed in user administration. So who can create the user account? Only administrator. So we'll be discussing that, how to create the user account, how we can assign the password, how the users can log in with a different method in Linux, where their user information will be stored, how as an administrator we can change the database file as per our requirement. Then we will be discussing how we can create a group. So group means users, a collection of users. So generally group is created to assign the same permission to the multiple users. So before we assign the permission, we should know how to create a group, how to add a single user, multiple user, how to make group admin, yes, where the group information will be stored. All those things we'll discuss in group administration. After that, we will be applying the permission on users and group by using permission policies, which is used to for security of the data and sharing of the data. So in Linux, we have three types of permission policies. All the three policies we'll be discussing, that is, those three policies are basic file permission, access control list, and advanced file permission. All the three policies we'll be discussing in depth. Again, in advanced file permission, we have three types of permissions: set UID, set GUID, and sticky bit. All three we will be discussing. Then after that, we'll move to the process management, how to manage our server, how to monitor our servers, what are the things running. So we'll be discussing under the two command, process status and top command. Using that, how we can monitor our server, that we will see through the process management. After that, we'll move to the disk management. So to manage our disk, we need to create the partition. So to manage our partitions, to create our partition efficiently and effectively, we have to create a different or multiple partition. How we can create multiple partition, what are the different types of partition, all these things we'll discuss in disk management. And to improve our system performance, one logical memory is used in Linux, which is called swap management. So what is swap, how it will improve the system performance, that also will be discussed. And if any user is wasting the space, we can apply the limited or restricted space using the disk quota, that also we'll be discussing. And very important concept in disk management is we can implement the LVM. LVM means what? On the hard disk or partition, we will implement LVM in Linux, which stands for Logical Volume Manager, through which we can combine multiple hard disks or partition into one logical space, through which we can do the resizing of the file system. How to do that? We'll see that. Then, if you are keeping all your important data in single hard disk, if hard disk get failed, means everything will be lost. So how do we prevent this? We will apply the RAID levels. Yes, we have RAID, redundant array of independent disks, through which we'll store the data instead of single hard disk, multiple hard disk or multiple partitions, so that if one of the hard disk get failed also, we will not lose the data, because the data will be there in other working hard disk. So that will be done with the help of the RAID level, like 0, 1, 5. We'll discuss that and we'll configure RAID level 5. Then after that, to prevent, as an administrator, one of the important job, we need to make sure the company data is never lost. So to prevent that data loss, what we have to do? We have to take the backup. So who will take the backup of the user's data? Administrator. So as an administrator, we'll be discussing what are the various tools and commands by which you can take the backup. And once you have taken the backup, if original data get lost, how we can restore it, that also we'll be discussing. Okay, just a minute, my battery got low. Let me connect my battery. Okay, so we'll be discussing backup, how to take the backup with the various tools and commands which are used in real time, like tar command. How we can take the backup of our files and directories by using the tar commands. So with the help of the tar command, we can take normal backup as well as compressed backup by using the tool gunzip. Like in Windows, we have WinZar. Similar to that, in Linux, we use WinZip. Gunzip. In Windows, WinZar. In Linux, Gunzip. So we'll be discussing how to compress the data by using tar command. And then we will be discussing how to take the backup of the users data. Everyday users will be writing the variable different data. So how we can take the different data, that we will be discussed in the backup and restore by using the dump command. How to take the backup of everyday users data by using the dump command. So in that, three types of commands will be using, or three types of backup will be taking using the dump: full backup, incremental backup, and differential. What is that? We'll discuss. Then after that, we'll be discussing auto scheduling. So we can do our backup and our job of creation users file by scheduling it at so and so time. Even if you are not there, so and so task should be done. So that we can do with the help of the scheduling job. So we'll be discussing how to write the or create the scheduling of the jobs or tasks by using AT and cron D. So these are the topics which we are going to cover in the standalone part. Then we will come to the network administration. In that, we'll be discussing how we can assign the static IP, then how we can set the name to our machine, yes, and how we can install the application using. So we are going to use in Linux the Red Hat. So in Red Hat, all the application will be there with a .rpm extension. So to install .rpm application, we have different tools like rpm and yum. So we'll be discussing both the tools, how to install the application using rpm and yum by configuring the yum server. That we will be discussing. Then how to take the remote desktop using telnet, which is not used, but nowadays we use as SSH. So that also we'll discuss, how to take the remote desktop using SSH, and how to copy the data from one machine to another using SCP, secure copy. We will be discussing to share the data in Linux. What are the services we will use in Linux? FTP, NFS, and Samba. So all the three services we'll be discussing to share the data. So FTP can share only files, not directory, but on any OS. The NFS can share both files and directories, same like share folder in Windows, but only Linux to Linux. But Samba server will share the both files and directory between different operating systems like Linux to Linux, Linux to Windows, Windows to Linux. So all these three servers will be discussing. But sharing of the data, because as an admin we need to share the data, so that will be discussed by these three different services. So all these three services will be discussing: FTP, NFS, and Samba server. Then we will be discussing DNS, which will resolve the name into IP, which is used in accessing the servers or machine by name as well as the website by name. Then we will be discussing Apache web server, how to host the website using Apache. Most of the websites in the world are being hosted using Apache. So we'll be discussing that, and how to configure the DHCP server, which will assign the IP address to all the clients. So all these basic servers will be there in every company. So we'll be discussing this, how to configure this. So this is the total content which we are going to discuss through this Linux administration course. So I hope I given you the idea about what are the topics which we are going to discuss. Yes, is it clear? If it is clear, I'll start the session now. Do you have any questions or query? You can reply by using the chat box. If it is fine, shall I start the session? See, Suleiman, if I'm pronouncing your Suleiman, if I'm pronouncing your name, sorry, uh, we will be working on the Linux. Even though graphical interface is there, we will be doing our work through commands only. So this complete course we are going to discuss through the command only. I told you, no. Yes, so, once you are done with this course, you will be eligible to work like a Linux system administrator. And if you have even the gap up to 2 to 3 years, you can easily cover that. So much depth will be discussed. And this is a foundation course for doing any higher courses, uh, even higher courses. Like if you want to do DevOps, Azure, AWS, without this, it's difficult to understand. Okay. Yes, every day you will be getting the videos. So after a few days or within few days, once you make the payment, they'll create one new drive, and every day on your mail ID, one drive will be sent. The same drive. On that same drive, every day video will be uploaded. And first few days, the demo sessions will be there. It is 5,000 rupees Indian currency. You can see on our website. And the modes of payment is also, you have online also. You can see our numbers are there. For the payment, you can contact them. Just a second. These are the numbers. So the link through which you are logged in, no? On that same link, you have the numbers. So on these numbers, you can contact. I think you are able to see my screen. So you can make a payment. So first a few days, our sessions, that videos also will be getting, but it is already there. Everyday session is already there on our YouTube channel from that also. So after a few days, they'll change the link, and the people who made the payment, to them, one new link will be created. On that, you will be getting everyday session recording. Yes, see here, they have, our department people have sent you one message. Okay. Uh, these are the payment mode. Sudeep Sen, I didn't get you. You written, sir, is there freelancing available after this course, or WHPF means? I didn't get you. Can you expand WFH, so that I can tell you? Okay, okay. See, uh, based on the companies, it is which type of job you will get. So freelancing is also available, or if some companies offer you to work from the home, because now the situation is getting controlled. So most of the employees now being asked to come to the offices. Okay. So, okay, fine. So can I start the course? Can I start the session now? So we'll discuss first topic. What is Linux? Yes, we'll start from there. So what is Linux? Yes, because this course is about Linux administration, so we should know about it. So what is Linux? Yes. Uh, Please reply the answer through the chat box. Yes, what is Linux? I'm waiting for your reply. Use the chat box, because you should have the idea, no? Yes, Linux is an operating system. But I think our friend Solomon answer is very right. Yes. So you should say, when somebody asks about what is Linux, you should say Linux is an operating system. Yes. But which type of operating system it is? So you have to use the word terminology, open source. So the thing which separate the Linux operating system from other operating system is Linux is an open source operating system. What is meant by open source? We'll be discussing in today's session. Okay. So first we will concentrate on what is meant by operating system. So it can be any operating system, whether it is a Windows, Linux, Mac, Unix, any OS. So how do you define a OS? OS means what? So we'll go before. Now we know that Linux is an operating system. Yes. Which type of operating system? Open source. So what is open source? We'll go to that. So before that, we need to know what is operating system. Yes. How do you define an operating system? I'm waiting for your reply. Then I'll tell you. Yes. How do you define your operating system? Because this word we use very often. No. Operating system. Operating system. Yes. How do you define your operating system? Suppose you have purchased one new machine here. One new machine you have purchased, a laptop. And in this, there is no OS. You are sitting here as a user. In this machine, there is no OS. There is a no OS is installed in this laptop. Can you use this laptop? Can you use this laptop? Tell me, yes or no. Will you able to use the laptop without OS? No. Why? Because everybody of us knows this. Without OS, we can't use. But why? Why we can't use? No, no, not that. Saying it is not correct. Without that, we can't book. No. Without that, we cannot use without OS. But why? So I'll tell you one simple answer. One simple answer. Suppose you know Hindi language or any language. I know another language, Telugu. Can we communicate? Suppose you know Hindi language. I know Telugu language. Can we communicate? Can we communicate? No. So we need. Then how we can communicate now? You know Telugu language. I know Hindi language. We can't understand each other language. So how we can communicate? This is a general question now. How we can communicate? So English, common language. I don't know English. You might be knowing English, but I don't know English. Then I know only Hindi. Then how we can communicate? Yes, I don't know English. Okay, okay, okay. Yeah, very interesting answer, Suleiman. But that is a very lengthy and uh, no, practically speaking, translator Santosh Reddy is very nice. I agree with that answer. I think you also agree. Translator. Translator means mediator who understand your language and my language. Yes, that is a better option, no? I hope Solomon you agree. Yeah. So that is what exactly happened. So machine understand, our computer understand which language. Computer is a machine, yes. Machine consists of hardware and software. So well, machine understand which language, computer understand which language. Yes, tell me, computer understand which language. Yes, binary language, zeros and ones. Now, as a human being, as a user, do you understand binary language? You understand binary language? No. So that is what exactly happening. You are a user, you want to use the laptop or the computer, but computer does not understand your language. You understand high level language. Computer understand binary language. So they understand different language. So we need one mediator, one translator between the user and the machine. Who is that? Who is that translator? Who is that mediator between the user and the machine? Yes, tell me. Yes, it is an operating system. So operating system is what? It's a physical thing or logical thing? Operating system is a physical thing or it is a logical or software? What is this operating system? Yes, a machine consists of, yes, hardware. So to interact with that hardware, we need one software. So what is that software? Operating system. So operating system is a collection of program which acts like an interface between the user and the machine or the hardware. So it is an interface, it is a translator, it is a mediator between the user and the machine. So whenever we give the input as a human being, as a user, we will give it in high level language, whether it is a command or whatever task you are doing, you will give it in not binary. Then how the computer will understand? You'll write it on the, you'll write it on the OS. Then the OS will convert, and the OS will convert that into binary and give it to the machine. Now the machine give the output in binary language. Again, the OS will convert it back to the high level language and displays on the screen. This is what the process will be done with the help of the operating system. Any operating system, this is the work. Are you following now? What is the use or what is the importance of OS? Are you understanding? Okay. So operating system is a collection of program which acts like a mediator or translator between the user and the machine. So every operating system function is same. So most of the people in the world are using which operating system? Most of the people in the world prefer to use which OS? I'm saying most of the people, persons in the world are using which OS? All over the world. No, 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 not Linux. Most of the people in the world are using, yes, Santosh Reddy, right. So most of the people in the world, they are using which OS? Windows OS. So in Windows, yes. Why people prefer to use the Windows? Why people prefer to use the Windows? Why people are using the Windows? You can say not easy to understand, easy to operate. You can say Srinivas what? Windows operating system is easy to operate. Why is it easy to operate? Why it is easy to operate? Because of its graphical interface. So most of the people or persons in the world prefer to use the Windows as their operating system because it is easy to operate because of its graphical interface. So in Windows, how many types of OS we have? Two types of OS. What are they? Client OS and server OS. So in the client OS, we have like Windows 7, 8, 10. Now latest one is 11 also is there. Yes, Windows 11. Whereas the server OS will have the server OS it's called here 2003 server operating system, 2008 server operating system, 2012, 2016, and 2019. Yes, yes. So now, which operating system the administrator will be using? Which OS will have more features? If you talk about first Windows, client OS will have more features or server OS will have more features? Yes. Which OS will have more features? ServerOS or Client OS? If my voice is audible, please reply. Use the chat box. Yes. Which OS in Windows, ServerOS or Client OS, will have more features? Yes, ServerOS. ServerOS. Client OS will have less feature. Suleiman, ServerOS. So on the servers, so if you are working on an administrator, you have to use server or you will be working on client. ServerOS. So as an administrator, you will be sitting on server or client? Client or server? Server. So on the servers machine, you will be using which OS? ServerOS. ServerOS will have more features. Servers can be configured using the ServerOS, not client OS. Yes. So client OS has been designed to use the services. ServerOS has been designed to provide the services. So generally, as an administrator, you will be sitting on ServerOS, which will provide the services, Whereas the client OS, has been designed to use the services. So normally, the employees, the client will be using the client OS to access the services. As an administrator, you will be sitting on the server OS to provide the services to your client, to your employee. So as an administrator, you will be sitting on server. So on the server, which OS will be there? Server OS. So if you want to work like an administrator, you should have the knowledge on client OS or server OS. So whenever you are working like administrator, you need to work on the server. So to work on the server, we should have the knowledge on server operating system. I hope you are following. So in Windows, the administrator will be using the server OS. So, but we want to work like a administrator. So administrators will be working on server OS. So most of the servers in most of the company, they are working on Windows or Windows OS or Linux OS. Most of the servers in the world, it is working on Linux operating system or Windows operating system. You can check with any person who is working. I'm not saying all, I'm saying most of the servers in most of the company, they are working on Linux platform or Windows platform. You can check even in the Google. Yes, tell me, it is working where? If you don't know, also make your guess. Yes, it is right. Most of the servers are working on the Linux. So now if you want to work like a administrator, more opportunities will be for Linux administrator to work like a system administrator. That's why this course, Linux administrator, we are discussing. So through this Linux administrator course, you will be focusing on Windows OS or Linux OS through this course. We are going to discuss this course through Linux OS or Windows OS, Linux administration course. We are going to discuss through Linux OS or Windows OS. Linux, yes. So our focus will be on Linux OS. So the Linux OS, which we are going to discuss now. So Linux is an OS. Which type of OS now Linux is? Linux is a which type of OS? Open source. So what is mean by open source? I'll tell you later. Just a few minutes. After a few minutes, I'll tell you. So just remember, if somebody asks you what is Linux, you have to say Linux is an open source operating system. Open source means, what is meant by open source? So now in this Linux administration course, we are going to use the Linux OS. So we are going to work on the Linux client OS or a server OS, because we want to work on a administrator. So in the Linux, the server OS is referred with the name enterprise. So we are not using the word server OS. Here we are using the word enterprise Linux. So enterprise Linux is nothing but server OS, equivalent to the server OS. So our focus will be on Linux. So Linux is an open source operating system. So why I equate to the Windows? Because most of the people are using Windows and most of the people have the basic knowledge of Windows. So I'm comparing it now. So Windows OS is designed by the Bill Gates. Yes, Windows OS is developed by Bill Gates using what? DOS. So Windows operating system is designed by Bill Gates under the company name Microsoft. And the Windows OS is designed by Bill Gates using the DOS. So using the DOS, Windows operating system is designed. So same way, Linux is an operating system. Which operating system? Open source operating system. What is open source? I'll tell you after few minutes. So now we'll focus on completely on Linux. So Linux operating system is designed using what? Like Windows OS designed using DOS. So same way, Linux operating system is designed or developed using what? Yes, Linux operating system developed using what? If you know the answer, please write it. If you don't know, also make a guess. Just write your opinion. Be interactive. Yes, Solomon, absolutely right. Others also please remember Linux is designed using the Unix. So Linux is designed using the Unix. Like Windows is designed or developed using the DOS. Same way Linux is designed using the Unix. What is Unix now? What is Unix? So Unix is also an operating system. So Unix is an operating system. So what is the difference between DOS and Windows? In the DOS, you don't have graphical interface and it is not easy to operate. So same way, from Unix, Linux is designed. So Unix was designed or developed by whom? Any idea? So before we move to the Linux, since the Linux is designed using the Unix, we will concentrate on few minutes about the Unix. Then we'll come back to the Linux because Linux is designed or developed using Unix. So what is Unix? Using is also operating system. Which type of operating system Unix and who designed it, who developed it, when it is designed? Any idea, anyone? What is the advantage of Unix? What is the disadvantage of Unix? Once you understand them, then you can understand easily about the why Linux came. Yes. So let me tell you, I think most of the people is not aware about the Unix. So Unix is an command-based operating system. Command-based means you can say CLI. CLI means command line interface. Unix is an command line interface operating system, means text mode operating system. So this Unix is an operating system which is completely designed on text mode, CLI mode. There is no graphical interface in the Unix. So this Unix operating system is designed by AT&T company. AT&T. I think do you know the AT&T abbreviation? American Telephone and Telegraph. So Unix is designed by AT&T company under Kem Thompson and Dennis Ritchie. I think most of the people might be aware about the Dennis Ritchie. He is the founder of the C language. So these two gentlemen, Kem Thompson and Dennis Ritchie, they designed the Unix operating system when they were working for the company AT&T, American Telephone and Telegraph, in 1973. So in which year officially this Unix was there? 1993. So who designed the Unix? AT&T company under Kem Thompson and Dennis Ritchie. So what is the advantage of Unix? Unix is a very good OS, very stable. virus cannot enter. So in 70s, Windows came in 80s, maybe 1985 first client OS was released, and Windows Server OS was released in 1993 with the name Windows NT. But client OS was there in 1983 or 85. I think 83, I think, or 85. First client OS. So in 1970s, there was no Windows OS. So maximum companies and people were using only Unix. So Unix advantage, very stable, very good OS, very secured OS. Security used to be very good. Virus cannot enter and it will never used to get hang or slow. But in that, the main disadvantage in Unix was Unix is a totally command based, no graphical interface. That is one disadvantage. But the main drawback in the Unix was Unix is called proprietary based operating system. Proprietary based operating system means Unix, in simple word you can say Unix is a hardware dependent OS. In simple word, hardware dependent OS. In technical term, it is called Unix is a proprietary based operating system. In simple word, you can say it is a hardware dependent OS. So who designed the Unix? AT&T. So they made their OS Unix can be installed with the name they released sys3 sys5. So that OS can be installed only on AT&T machines. So by that they earn lot of money because there was no competition to them. So by seeing that a lot of money has been earned by the AT&T, the other bigger companies also design their own Unix, like the IBM company designed AIX. So that also kept hardware dependent. So AIX, which is a Unix OS designed by IBM company. So AIX can be installed only on the IBM machines. Only on the IBM machine. Uh, Only on the IBM machines. And like here, I have written here. So IBM developed their Unix OS with what name? AIX. Then the HP company designed their Unix OS with the name HPUX. So this can be installed. HPUX can be installed only on HP machine. AIX can be installed only on IBM machine. Then out of this, most popular became what? Solaris. Solaris can be installed only on Sun machines. Now the Sun machine has been taken over by the now. It's taken over by IBM. Oh, sorry, the Sun machine. Oh, sorry, the Sun company has been taken over by the Oracle, and the Red Hat company is now taken over by the IBM. Very recently, Red Hat company is taken over. So Red Hat is releasing the OS, but under the management of IBM. So now the Sun company is taken over by the Oracle company. So in the Unix, what was the disadvantage? I'm trying to say is that if you want to change the Unix OS from Solaris to AIX, you have to completely change the OS. Not only OS, you have to completely change the hardware. So Solaris can be installed only on Sun machine. AIX can be installed only on IBM machine. HPUX can be installed only on HP machine. So that's why it is called hardware dependent OS. So if I want to change Solaris to AIX, I need to change not only the OS, I have to change the complete hardware, which is a very, very expensive affair. So if your company working on one project, so they have to change due to the project Solaris to IBM, or Solaris to AIX. So they have to change the complete machine from Sun machine to IBM. This was the major drawback in the Unix. So first drawback, no graphical interface. Second drawback, Unix is a hardware dependent OS. Means to install one particular flavor of Unix, you need particular hardware. So if you want to change the OS, you have to change the complete hardware, which is a very expensive affair. So this is the major drawback of the downfall of the Unix. Now Unix nobody is using. So then using this drawback, or by studying this drawback, the Bill Gates person, the smart person, what he did, he designed Windows OS. So in Windows, he introduced these two features: graphical interface, and Windows is a hardware independent OS. Means you have any laptop, IBM laptop, HP laptop, Dell, Lenovo, any, you can install Windows. Yes. So when the Windows was released with this dual feature, hardware independent and graphical interface, most of the people migrated from Unix to the Windows. So Windows became number one. Then literally there was no competition to them. So they frequently started raising the license key. So in Windows, we have to purchase the license key. The OS is not free. So license key. So they started raising their license key. So by seeing this, one gentleman developed this Linux OS. So he wanted freedom from the license issue, and he wanted to revive the Unix. So using the Unix, one gentleman designed the Linux OS. So that gentleman name is what? Who designed the Linux OS? Yes, any idea? Anybody? Who designed the Linux OS? Linux is an operating system, but who designed it? Like Windows developed by Bill Gates using DOS. So same way, Linux designed using Unix, but who developed it? If anybody knows the answer, please write it in the chat box. I'm waiting for your reply. If you don't know, shall I tell you? Very nice. Again, Solomon is given the right answer. All of you, please remember, Linux operating system is being designed or developed by Linus Torvald. He's from Finland. He's also there. Like Bill Gates is alive, same way this person, Linus Torvald, is also alive. So he also at very young age from Finland country, using the Unix, he designed Linux. So Linus Torvald designed the Linux operating system. Yes, very nice answer. And others also, please remember this. Linus Torvald, his name, who designed the Linux OS. Okay. So to design this Linux OS, as we have discussed, Linux is an operating system. So every operating system consists of what? Collection of program. Every operating system consists of what? Collection of program. So this Linus Torvald, what he did, whatever program he has written to design this Linux operating system, which is technically called Linux kernel. So whatever coding or the program he has written to design this Linux kernel or Linux operating system, he put it over the internet, which anybody can access. Not only we can access, but we can also see the source code of the complete program of the Linux kernel, which is designed by Linus Torvald. And we can not only see that, but we can also modify it. So that is the reason Linux is called open source operating system. Now I'll tell you once again, I'll repeat. So the Linux kernel, which is designed by Linus Torvald. So the Linux kernel, which is designed or developed by Linus Torvald, is open source. Open source means the source code of the Linux kernel. Source code means the complete coding or the program, whatever the Linus Torvald written to design the Linux kernel, is freely available on internet. The Linux kernel, which is designed by Linus Torvald, is freely available on the internet, which anybody can access. Not only we can access the source code of the Linux kernel, which is designed by Linus Torvald, but we can modify, which cannot be done in other OS. So can we see the source code of the Windows OS? No. Can we see the source code of the Mac OS? No. Only this feature is there in Linux. So Linux is also called as open source free operating system. It is a free as well as open source. Open source means the source code of the Linux kernel, which is designed by Linus Torvald, is freely available over the internet, which anybody can access. Not only we can access, anybody can not only access but can modify. So whatever source code the Linus Torvald has written, we can take that and we can modify, or we can add something to it. We can edit it. So we can add some features to it. Then we can have our own OS with our own name. So the official logo for the Linux operating system, which is designed by Linus Torvald, is penguin. Like official logo for the Windows is 4 square. That is nothing but window. So same way official logo for the Linux operating system is penguin. But since Linux is an open source, so I repeated 2-3 times. Once again, I'm telling you, open source means the source code of the Linux kernel, which is designed by Linus Torvald, is freely available over the internet, which anybody can access and also can edit it or can modify it. That's why Linux is called as open source free operating system. So using the Linux kernel, which is designed by Linus Torvald, different companies, what they have done, they added some features. Then they made their own OS with their own name, with their logo. So some of the Linux flavors are Red Hat, Ubuntu, Kali Linux, SUSE, Debian, Turbo Linux. One Indian name is also there, Boss. Out of this, the most commonly used name is, most commonly used OS as for the Linux is Red Hat. So Red Hat equivalent version or similar version is CentOS. So these are not the version, these are the different Linux OS designed or developed by different companies. So how it is possible? How it is possible? Because Linux is an open source operating system. Do you have so many variety in Windows? No. In Windows you have only version, different version like Windows 7, 8, 10. But here these are the different Linux OS designed by different distributor or companies. So why it is possible here? Because Linux is an open source. Are you understanding me, everyone? Why Linux is different compared to other? Did you understood the meaning of open source? Please tell me yes, no, something. Okay, fine. So we are going to learn through this Linux administration course. Which flavor now? We are going to learn this through the Red Hat using CentOS, because in Red Hat they are distributing their OS in two categories, Fedora and RHEL. So we are going to discuss Red Hat, this course using the Red Hat through the CentOS. Means the Red Hat people are releasing their OS with what name? RHEL. RHEL means Red Hat Enterprise Linux, which is equivalent to the serverOS 7. We are working on 7. Most of the servers are 7. So some people who are working like a Linux expert, what they are doing, they have taken the permission from Red Hat. So they have taken the source code of Red Hat. So exact same thing, whatever you can do in Red Hat from installation to command, every command will be same in CentOS. So we are going to discuss this Red Hat course through the CentOS, RHEL 7 through CentOS 7. Why? Because in Red Hat, they are giving the OS free, but they are charging for support because the companies cannot run on free concept. But we are using this OS for training purpose. So to expand the Linux, to make the Linux grow and become a competitor to the Windows, still most of the people are using Windows. Now the competitor to the Windows is Linux. So the Linux, the people who are working on Linux, they want Linux to grow more, to give more competition to the Windows. What they have done, some people who are working in different companies as a Linux expert, they form one community with the name CentOS. See, CentOS means Community Enterprise Operating System. So they form one association. So it is not for business purpose. So just to expand the Linux, to make the Linux grow. So they took the source code with the permission from Red Hat, and exact same thing they are copying and releasing in CentOS. So whatever feature you have in Red Hat RHEL 7, same thing will be there in CentOS 7. So we are going to discuss this course through the Red Hat using the RHEL 7 through the CentOS 7. What is the difference? Exactly same thing, but here there is no charges. In RHEL 7 they are charging to provide the support. So we are using this OS for training purpose. So exactly same thing is there in CentOS. So we are going to discuss this course Linux administration through the Red Hat using the RHEL 7 through CentOS 7. Both are exactly same. So CentOS is completely free but no support. RHEL 7 they are charging. The OS is free but they are charging to provide the support. I think you understood. Now most of the people who are doing the Linux course, their doubt will be this: why we are discussing Red Hat? Why not Ubuntu, Kali Linux, say SUSE or Debian? Most of the servers in the company they are working on Linux. In Linux also most of these servers are on Red Hat. So that's why we are discussing this course through Red Hat using the CentOS. Now another question is, now suppose you have learned the course through the Red Hat. Now your company where you got the job, they are working, say suppose on Ubuntu or Debian. Can you work? That is the question they will ask. So the answer is yes, you can work, because the structure wise, the concept wise, everything will be same. These are all Linux based OS. So everything will be same. Only sometimes the command also same, but sometimes the commands might be different. So the structure, the concept, the configuration, everything will be same. But sometimes the command might be different. So how the people are working then? Suppose you have learned this course. Suppose you have learned this course through the Red Hat. Now your company is using Debian server or the Ubuntu server. Can you work? Yes, you can easily work. So the concept is same, structure is same, configuration is same. Only sometime, even sometime the command is also same. And Unix and Linux command is almost similar. So now Unix has been not used. Why? Because I told you drawback, hardware dependent. So that problem is overcome in Linux. So Linux kernel, which is designed by Linus Torvald, he kept the complete coding and the program on the internet, which anybody can access and modify. And he made this as a hardware independent. So like Windows, Linux is also hardware independent. So it doesn't require any specific OS, which was required in Unix. So that is the reason now most of the companies, they are working on Red Hat, because whatever security you have in Unix is there in same in Linux. So it is very secure. Whatever features you have in the Unix, that features are there in the Linux. So what is the drawback in Unix that is been overcome here? In Linux have now graphical interface also, as well as it is been made hardware independent. So that is the reason now people are using on their servers Linux instead of Unix. Now my question, my doubt, like here the people will ask you this question. So I am working on Red Hat. Now if my server is a Debian, can I work? Yes, you can easily work. So sometimes some command might be different. So how the people are working? They just Google it. So once you know the equivalent command in Red Hat, but your server is Debian, you just type it, equivalent command for so and so in Debian. You will get it, and people are working like this. So to simple example to remember this is, suppose you know one car driving, one particular car you have, you know the car driving. So you are using, like in India we have Tata Sumo, something like that, Maruti 800 something. Now you purchase one new little bit big Tata Sumo, you know Maruti 800. Now you purchase Tata Sumo, something like that. So can you drive? Can you drive from the Maruti to the Tata? Can you drive or you can't drive? Tell me, can you drive or you can't drive? If you know Maruti driving, now you're sitting on Tata. Can you drive? You purchase new one. Can you drive or you can't drive? Nobody is replying again. Yes, we can. It will take some time. Yes, maybe 1 or 2 days, because some features might be different. So exact, the driving remains same. Maybe some features here and there. So same way, if you are working on Red Hat or CentOS, you can work on any other flavor, because the concept, the structure, everything will be same. Command, you can just Google it. So that's why one person cannot learn all the flavor, because it keeps on coming, because it is an open source. So if you are good in one flavor, you can work on any. So most of the servers are working on Red Hat. So that is the reason we will be working through the Red Hat using the CentOS. I hope it is clear to everyone. Is it clear to everyone? Okay, so with this, we'll stop the session here today. So tomorrow we'll continue with why most of the servers are on Linux, why not on Windows. Windows is easy to operate, but most of the servers are on Linux, and you want to work like administrator, means you have to work on server mostly. Which OS is there? Linux. So we are discussing Linux. So why Linux is more secure, why most of the companies are using Linux only, why not Windows, that we will see tomorrow. So first 2-3 days you'll not have practical, and after maybe day after tomorrow onwards, we'll see first installation, then every day you'll have the practical. Okay, so today I have gone through again for few people benefit what are the topics which we are going to discuss. Tomorrow onwards I'll not discuss that. You can see our videos you will be getting, and also you will be able to see this all demo session on our YouTube channel. Okay, so tomorrow straight away when we start the session, I will discuss what is the difference between Windows and Linux, why Linux servers are more secure compared to Windows. So that we will see tomorrow. So before I wind up the session, please tell me, majority of the people, what is the convenient time? 9:30 or 10 o'clock? Majority will go with the majority, and others have to adjust. So like we cannot have rigid, only I want this timing. So best timing you tell me, 9:30 or 10. Only these two options. I'm okay with any time. I cannot take one session 9:30, another session 10. So majority of you just tell me, if 9:30 means we'll go 9:30, 10 o'clock means 10 o'clock. But others has to adjust. It is a matter of just half an hour. And in India, 9:30 means nobody will log in exactly 9:30. 9:30 means it will become 9:40, 9:45. So you will tell me 10 o'clock or 9:30. So Santosh is saying 10. Others, already this was our second session. Actually started on Friday. Some people join on Saturday, so I took same topic Friday and Saturday same. Today again I repeated what was the topic we discussed on Friday, Saturday. So actually today is the first session. So try to make the payment as early as possible, so that you will be getting one new Google Drive link. On that everyday videos will be uploaded. Okay, so shall we keep it at then 10? 10 means sharp 10 o'clock Indian time, or again 10 means 10:15, like that. So shall we put it 10, 9:30? Yes. So in India, like we'll say 9:40 means it will become 10. So please tell me, because one of our friend is from US. So for that, at least we should be keep one fixed time. For him, it is a night time there. So all of you, please cooperate with each other. I'm okay with any time, but already it is 1 hour. over more than 1 hour, please suggest me so that 10. Okay, 2 people are saying 10. Okay, okay then. Okay, 9:45 will say, 10 o'clock will log in. You also understood our Indian culture. Okay, so we'll fix it at 10. Is it okay, Aruna? We'll fix it at 10. 9:45 means we will log in by 10. So I'll start sharply by 10 o'clock. Whether one people join or 2 people join, but please try to join it as soon as possible. So I'll suggest them that like 9:45 or 9:30 the session will be there. So most of the people will join by 9:45. So I'll also try to join by 9:50 or 9:55 or maximum 10, and I'll start the session. Okay. So is it fine to everybody? Please cooperate with each other. It is just a matter of 15 minutes here and there. So Srinivas, it is okay for you? 9:45 means 10 o'clock because you are not replied. Srinivas, can you able to hear us? Everybody has replied except you. So is it fine? Okay. So tomorrow you please try to log in by 9:45 Indian Standard Time. I'll also try to log in and the session will start by 10. I'll start the session sharply by 10. So before I wind up the session, please tell me, did you understood today's session? Any doubt or any question is there, you please unmute your mic and you can speak now. Yes. If you have any question, any doubt related with today's session, please speak. Okay, you are good. Okay. So you can leave. Those people who understood, you can leave for today. Yes, you can easily take this RSCSA after this class. But for that, you have to take minimum 3 to 4 days. What you can say, you have to register in Prometic Center. You have to say you know the Linux. You want only the training, only exam point of view. So in India, we are doing like that only. I don't know in US. So once they do the course, they'll go to the Prometic Center. They'll register for the mock test. Only 2, 3, 4 days. Because they will give the question papers. The Prometic centers will have the model. Every day same pattern questions will come. So you'll take the training for maximum 3 to 4 days. They'll take a mock test, then registered for the exam by making the payment. Again, they will not learn the complete course. They will charge you very hefty. Okay, so you also after this course easily can clear this exam. But for that, you have to take 2 to 3 days training in one Prometic sector. Only exam point of view, you have to say, I already know the subject. I want to just prepare myself for the exam point of view. Models. So from that model only the question will comes. So you should tell only for the exam point of view training I want. So after this, I can suggest you AWS with the DevOps. For Azure, you should be good with the Windows OS. So Santosh Reddy, my suggestion is AWS with DevOps. Okay. So is there any question, any doubt, or can I close this session? Okay. So I'm closing the session. See you tomorrow. See you tomorrow. I'm closing this session. Thank you, everybody.
Sir, thank you, sir.
Thank you.